Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome back to another edition of NBC's 10 Count. I'm Steve Fall, but on today's edition, I'm talking to Al Snow. Al, how you doing today?
And if I were doing any better, Steve, I'd be jealous of myself.
No. Well, this interview is over. No, I'm just kidding. Before we even start,
yes,
we got to go back to January 1999, the day I met you. Yes, that is right. We have to go back to January 1999. My father is reading the newspaper, as people used to do, and some still do, and he sees that Al's. Yeah, you gotta do that. What is this news? Al Snow and Mankind were gonna be in a location in Massachusetts, where I'm from. So my dad threw me in the car. Didn't even give me gloves. Didn't give me a hat. Didn't give me a jacket. Just threw me in.
Threw you in the car.
Dad, why? January 99. Guess what? It was like 10 degrees outside. We're waiting in this long line, and I'm told, oh, Al's about to wrap up. I'm like, what? So as you're being shuffled out, of course, this is 1999, so there's 1,000 millions of people jumping on top of you, and you get in your car. I run up to you. You turn to me. I took a picture. Unfortunately, I am at work right now, so I still have the photo. I will text it to you because you looked right at me, threw it, and I was like, click, and this is film. So I'm not sure if it came out with my phone. I could go like, boop, 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 take 10,000 of them. But I want to say thank you for even stopping, because you didn't have the driver could have left. You could have kept going, but you stopped. You turned. You gave me a smile with your mannequin head, and I appreciate that. Still do to this day.
No, I'm sorry. I apologize, because if I hadn't been ushered away, I would have taken the time to do it. You know, it's honestly, you know, it's quite a I don't know what the right, like, it's very much a compliment that anyone would want to do something like that, to acknowledge you and then want to take a photo with you or want an autograph or something like that. Yeah. I've never once ever done what I do to for the sole purpose of achieving that, but it's very gratifying, and I consider myself very blessed that I get to do something that people enjoy watching and that motivates them to want to share an experience at some point, you know, and that's a big compliment. That really is.
Well, I've had that memory in my brain for over 20 something years now. So when I was gearing up to talk to you, I was like, I gotta tell them the story. Also, I think everyone had a backyard wrestling federation at one point in their lives when they were a kid.
Even I did when I was a teenager.
There you go. Again, this is probably me patting you in the back a little bit more. You're so handsome, by the way. I was Al Snow in my backyard wrestling federation. I had a mannequin head, but I bought at a local live event. But it was foam. Those things were a crazy price, but I bought one. I bought one. My father bought me one. And at the house show I went to, you were very angry at the mannequin and you gave it a pile driver. So I mimicked that in my backyard, and I broke it. Instantly broke it.
Well, Ed and I have had a very contentious relationship over the years, you know, where it's a very passionate relationship, and but it works, you know, that sparks fly.
Of course. Sometimes you're with my wife. Sometimes we're loving each other. Next minute we're fighting each other. Next minute we're loving each other.
Next minute you're pile driving her.
Same thing. I'm pile driving her.
Yeah.
I just admitted something on air. But anyways, enough about me. Let's talk about you. You're currently owner and the CEO of OVW Wrestling. And now I think everyone who is like been watching wrestling for so long knows OVW. They know the history of OVW, but now you're the man running the show. How did this happen?
Well, I don't know. I think I had a lapse of momentary insanity. And decided why not, you know, my life is boring enough. Let's make it really exciting, and buy a wrestling company, and especially one that's as storied and as historic as OVW. And you know, since I bought it, I mean, it's been an amazing ride. We just finished filming in August. We filmed our 1,200th consecutive episode of television. And then, which is quite an achievement in itself, but
no kidding.
BBC America was here from the end of May until the end of August, filming a documentary on the goings-ons here in OVW. And they were filming 12 hours a day, 5, 6, 7 days a week. We probably, we're making great strides with OVW. We've developed relationships with about 7 different national networks. We're in about 100 million homes. And then we're live every Thursday night from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern on Fight TV, the FITE TV that reaches about 6 or 8 million people.
Yeah.
And we're just, regionally, we're, on broadcast television, throughout the region. And we're just continuing to make great strides. Took us about 2, maybe 2.5 years, I think. And we were able to become the only actually state accredited from the State Office of Proprietary Education. We received our accreditation as an actual trade school for professional wrestling, sports entertainment, and broadcasting in the world. There's no other training center or trade that is designated as an actual accredited trade school. And so we're really proud of that, and
that's incredible.
So we're making, strides. We're trying to, rebuild and to expand and to bring OVW and wrestling, wrestling into, a new modern era. So in some ways.
Of course, like OVW though, if the history of OVW is incredible. You just brought 1,200 episodes. Not many shows in wrestling can say that they've ever done that. Not even you look at ECW, WCW, 2 of the biggest brands in the 90s did not do that.
No, we're 1 week ahead of SmackDown, 1 episode ahead of SmackDown. If Danny Davis, the originator of OVW, if he had counted from the moment of its inception, we'd surpass Raw actually at this point. But Danny didn't start counting the episodes, numbering the episodes until WWE got involved back in the late 90s or in the 90s. And then that was when, they required him to start to count the episodes, actually number them. But since then we have got a library of over 1,200 episodes. So pretty proud of that. Pretty proud.
So has anyone tried to buy the catalog? Do you currently own the catalog of all the episodes?
We own we were owned from like about 348 on, from 1 to 348, which was during the WWE years. They bought that when Danny owned the company. But from 348 on, I think it is 348, 349, we own that to the present day to 1,200.
So what year is 348?
That would have probably been maybe 2006-ish, somewhere in there. Yeah, I don't know, 2006-ish, 9-ish, somewhere in there.
Yeah. I imagine the obviously the WWE wanted to get their hands on the footage of some of their biggest stars who trained in OVW, so they could use it on documentaries, A&E series, everything you can think of. The network, before it joined Peacock, was just hungry for. It didn't matter what the content was. It was like you were in a wrestling ring. I mean, here, take my money.
Right.
We'll put it on. Now with Peacock, with NBC, they don't do that anymore. They have bottled up. They have shut down. It seems that all that extra on there so they can sell it to other networks, A&E and such, which is a smart business move. I'm not against that, but if you're
only lose access, you lose that access.
Yes, that was a big upset for a while. For one of them was like a Lex Luger special we were all promised on the network, and we were all waiting for it, and out of nowhere it disappeared, and it ended up on A&E, which is fine. I get it. More money. It's a business. Wrestling business.
True.
But I think a lot of people forget that. Though I noticed your background and I absolutely love it. You had Cat back there, you got Spider-Man back there, but you also have, you're involved with comic books, right?
Yeah. Broken Icon Comics. Eric Watkins is the editor and main publisher. And we developed contacted me, and it took quite a while. I'm so flattered because I'm such a huge, obviously, comic book fan, you know, and a voracious reader. I mean, I've always read literally everything. I mean, you name it, the material, I've probably read it. And to so flattered to be involved, to have an actual comic book developed about me. It's not a wrestling comic book, but it is about the wrestling character. And that's what makes it different. And there are two titles. One is The Ballad of Al Snow and Head. We have one issue out right now. We're about to have a second. And the premise is that, you know, it's the character, the one that you saw and was developed on television and wrestling. And basically, I'm insane. And
no different from what's happening now.
Yeah, which is debatable. I mean, you know, certain doctors claim this, but hey, doctors can claim anything, you know.
It's true.
So it's all a matter of opinion. And, you know, because, hey, just because I hear voices from the head doesn't mean, just because you don't, doesn't mean that it's not real.
This is true.
I mean, there's lots of sounds right now that you can't hear because you have the headset on. That doesn't mean they don't exist.
It's the tree falling in the forest scenario.
Exactly. Yes.
Yes.
So the Ballad of Al Snow and Head is about 40 pages long, and I was blown away by, I mean, these are top talent in the comic book industry that worked on it, and the artwork for each and every one of these comic books is different and unique, but absolutely incredible, just beautiful. And the story for the first one, The Ballad of Al Snow and Head, is that I'm in a post-apocalyptic world. And because it starts out where I'm in wrestling, and then I'm wrestling an opponent very short, and then I land on my head or whatever, and then we go off into the post-apocalyptic world, because everything takes place basically inside my mind, because I'm quote unquote insane. And I'm running a detective agency in this post-apocalyptic world, and I overhear that a barmaid has lost her heart to one of the you know, bar patrons, and I take it as he stole it, like he literally stole her heart. And so I go out and, you know, go to recover her heart, and, you know, people don't want my help, but I give it anyways. And then there's I return it to her, but it's an actual beating heart.
Oh, Jesus.
And it's done with some humor and things. And then there's a second title, and it's The Adventures of Al Snow and Head, and that's where I team up. It's like the old Marvel team up.
Yeah.
And I team up with, the first issue is with Chavo Guerrero and Pepe the Stick Horse.
Oh, nice.
And it's a Western, you know. And it's so brilliant because, you know, Chavo, they show panels of us riding horses. He's riding Pepe, and there's dust always around his feet, so you never see him running with the stick horse between his legs. And he's keeping up with the other horse that I'm riding. You know what I mean? So it's played very straight. And then I'm going to have a team up with, the next issue is Adventures with Al Snow and Head, is a team up. It's set back in like the 30s or 40s with Jesse Goddard's Mr. Spectacular from Big Brother fame, in the old circus type of way, with with a gimmick that we were going to do in WWE, but then said no, which was it's called The Swarm, which is where I have little people that are like little identical clones of me that all under my command, and they attack people at my command.
Wait a minute. So before we continue the conversation about comic books, Vince McMahon turned that idea down?
Well, yeah, I don't know why. I mean, it was the wheels were set in motion. Brian Gewertz, a good friend, he's got a book out right now.
Yeah.
It's an awesome book. I've only just gotten to start reading it. And I can't encourage everyone to get it. It's called There's a Problem Here. Brian Gewertz was a head writer for WWE for years, and very creative guy. And it's very interesting to see and hear stories from a person who's not a wrestler within the wrestling business. It allows people that are not actually a wrestler to gain a new appreciation and a perspective that they never had. It's really a very well.
All I've ever heard is good things about that book. I haven't picked it up yet, but anytime I interview someone, they actually, it seems like lately everyone I've been interviewing is like, you got to get this book. You got to get this book. But your comic book though, it kind of kicks in my brain where you're like, over the years, you've seen comic movies where like someone's like, hey, they made a talking tree. I'm like, a talking tree? And they're like, oh, a little raccoon with a gun. I'm like, a raccoon with a gun? And I'm like, what? But now you're saying to me that you and a mannequin head are going on battles and saving the world and saving a woman's, the man's heart, like all this stuff. Like,
in the second issue,
I need this.
The Ballad of Al Snow and Head, I'm now a secret agent, and I'm fighting the Cold War against our true enemy, Canada. So it gets a little ridiculous. I punch an old woman. I literally punch an old woman, the ambassador of Canada, and then fight a moose head. So it gets tricky. The other Adventures of Al Snow and Head, I team up with Scotty Tuhati in a very John Wick-ish assassin type thing. It has very little dialogue. And then another one with Tommy Dreamer. It's set back in Prohibition era times, in the gangster era, and it's very gritty and very dark. There's a horror comic that we did, and so each one of them are completely different and unique, and I got to tell you, like the artwork for the one with Scotty Tuhati, the artist is an artist that works in like an American style of manga, Japanese style art. So it's drawn complete, but the art is incredible, and the stories are really good and well written. And the great thing is it all takes place in my
your
mind.
head.
So you can have anything happen.
We need to get like Disney to buy this, because Disney's been buying everything lately. So let's just have that happen, buy it, make it. And suddenly Al Snow and Head are now in the Avengers movie, in the future, just because, they're announcing so many Marvel movies. It's like, crap, man, there's no room for a man and a mannequin head to take on people. I think we need to do this.
Head could be like Thor's hammer. You have to be worthy to pick him up.
Throw it, comes back to you, talks to you. What?
Kind of like what was the that movie that had she used the bowling ball, had the skull of her father in the bowling ball, and she talked to it and threw it. I can't remember. Had Ben Stiller was in it.
Mystery Men.
Yes, Mystery Men. Yes.
Yeah. I was like, wait, what year is this movie? Give me a brain. Give me a second for my brain to click in. Click. Though you mentioned when you're talking about the comic books, the giant moose head. That would be Pierre, I believe you had.
Oh, no, Pierre makes his appearances. So does Pepper as well.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
As well. Yes.
And we don't talk about it in detail, but lately the WWE and AEW have been having wrestling media scrums. Can you imagine this scenario, you fighting Big Boss Man, Kennel from hell, dogs taking crap places, peeing on each other, humping the crap out of each other, and then after, you got to go to a media scrum, and the reporter has to be like, Mr. Snow, did you notice the two dogs pee on your foot as you entered the ring?
I would do as if I were completely legitimately insane. Because people don't realize, like, when I was during that period of time, I carried the head everywhere. And when I went out to eat after shows, I took it into a diner, into a restaurant, sat across the table. I ordered 2 meals. We'd argue and fight.
Oh my God.
Waitresses would come up. You're getting, making the other customers uncomfortable. You need to leave. And I'm like, well, they're making us uncomfortable. How are we going to eat our food? They've got an upset stomach. Now I paid for their dinner. Box it up, please. We're going to go. And then I would just take the second meal back and eat it in the hotel later that night. So.
Why couldn't cell phones be around then as prominently are now? Because that would have blown up. Every night people would have been following you around to restaurants to see you argue with Head while you're eating food. That shit would have been everywhere. Like me, I just heard this. This is the first time I've heard this story.
Yeah, yeah.
So I hope the rest of the world hears it too, because that's insanity. But though media scrums, like, what do you think of them? I don't care what you think about what happened. Well, you want to
I
share, you can, but it's just it's a new thing that is presented because UFC's done it, boxing's done it, real sports, not real sports, but like football, they're obligated to do it. Wrestling is choosing to do these things.
Yeah, and as long as you discuss what it is you've sold. What I mean by that is we don't sell what we do. We have always sold who we are and why we are doing it. And the problem is that I'm asking you, the fan, to invest in me, to believe in me, to believe in who I am, to believe that, I really am insane. I really believe that, Head and I have a relationship and talk to each other. And then the second thing that I'm begging you to believe in is why we're doing it. That in spite of the fact that I'm insane, I can still wrestle, and I'm a competitive prize fighter. I'm out there and I'm trying to win and not lose, and that win and loss have a consequence to them. That if I don't win, it means something. Okay, not just because of the other ancillary things that have taken place backstage. You kicked my dog, you punched my mother in the face, or whatever. That adds gravity, that adds more consequence to the win and the loss. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I'm not out there to just beat you up. I'm out there to beat you, to prove that I'm the better man. That's, and then I'm going to work my way up the status ladder until I get into a title contention and win a title. And the reason I want that title is, one, not only to prove that I'm the best, but now I'm going to get better matches. I'm going to get better matchups. I'm going to get higher profile matchups. I'm going to make more money, etc. That's what, it's supposed to be portrayed as a sport. Now I'm going to sell you, and I mean this as a casual audience. Okay. And let's get one thing clear. And this is a myth that has propagated itself for quite some time.
Okay.
Let's stop the BS. Okay. Let's cease with this ridiculous mindset that only just recently, in the last, I'll even go back 20 years, that only just recently the general public has been privy to the fact that wrestling is predetermined.
Right.
All right.
I agree.
That's not true. It is not factual. Okay. People have known since the 1920s that wrestling in the United States, at least just in the United States. Now in Japan, it was the late 90s. In other parts of in the UK, it was well before that.
Yeah.
In the United States, it was the 1920s on. Okay. As of the end of the 1930s, newspapers stopped reporting the results because everybody was in on it. In 1976, I proclaimed to all of my family what I wanted to do for a living, which was to be a professional wrestler. Do you know what every one of them said to me that had never wrestled a day in their life? I love them all dearly. None of them are Mensa candidates. Okay. They all told me on both sides of my family, my father's side, my mother's side, up to my grandparents, why do you want to do that? It's fake. In 1976, they have known. Why did they continue in mass, thousands upon thousands of people? 1963. Now, keep in mind, we have known since 1920.
Right.
1960, well, it was 1961. They sold out Kaminsky Park, 41,000 people on a Friday night to see the main event of Buddy Rogers versus Pat O'Connor defending the world heavyweight title. Okay. Yeah. 41,000 people. Was it 41,000 dimwits that showed up that had no idea that wrestling was already predetermined? Or was it 41,000 people that were like, hey, I kind of know, but these people never give us a reason to question it while we're watching it? So kind of like magic, we all know a magician is not up there defying the laws of physics or altering reality. We know that. But they don't disclose to us while we're watching it to ruin it for us. Case in point, I have a very good friend. His name's Chris Mysterion, does an act called The Sentimentalist, where he he and his partner, a female, beautiful girl, they like do an act where they're reading people's minds. It's incredible. He fooled Penn and Teller. And I'm from the Carney, from wrestling, and I'm always trying to figure out the work and the angle. Couldn't figure it out. Don't know how they did it. I know they did something.
Right.
Don't know how they did it. But I never asked because I don't want to ruin it for me.
Yeah.
I want to keep that mystery because that's part of the fun. So if I'm going to do a media scrum and you asked me to do a media scrum, well, I'm going to show up and I'm going to be the Al Snow that was on TV. Yeah. I'm going to be the Al Snow that shows up in a restaurant with you when you and your family are in a booth next to me, and I'm going to be talking to head. I'm never going to show up and do the media scrum the way that AEW is doing it. And that is where a guy, Tony Khan, sits there and talks about, well, we booked this guy and they had a really good match. And, you know, and basically you just blatantly ruin. Same with social media. I'm not going to conduct myself that way on social media. I'm not going to sit there and sell you and get you to invest in who I am as a person, who I am and why I'm doing what I'm doing, and get you to care. And then at the same time, as I'm sawing the woman in half, look over my shoulder and go, hey, don't worry. Yeah, I got her, this girl up here, she's got her feet tucked up there, and I got her sister's feet out at the bottom. I'm not actually sawing anybody in half. Yeah. It ruins the fun. You know, that's like if you're going to go watch the Avengers or Spider-Man, and during the movie, they literally look at you in the camera and go, yeah, you know, this is all BS. We're not really doing this. I mean, it's no big deal. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
You don't want that. You want to be able to believe. You want to be able to care, and you want to be able to enjoy it and suspend that disbelief. And we're all competing, all of us in entertainment are competing for the most valuable resource on the face of the earth. And that most valuable resource is someone's attention. And now it is the hardest thing to achieve these days, is to get and capture someone's attention. And then it's even more of a challenge to hold it, to keep it, and then to be able to monetize it. Why in the world would you conduct these media scrums and then basically up the incline to the point where it's near impossible to gather the general audience's attention and then keep it and then monetize it? Instead, you try to play to a very niche, let's face it.
Yeah.
That audience that reads social media, that reads the internet as far as wrestling is concerned, is an incredibly small percentage of a potential audience that exists.
Yep. Why
in the world, if you're in business to make money, are you marketing and directing all of your attention to just that? It's very short-sighted. It's very poor business management, in my opinion. And also admits that you don't think that you're capable of getting and garnering and building an audience that is not already built in as a wrestling audience, that you can't capture their imagination because you feel like they're gone, and that the performers, you don't have the confidence in your performers that they can do it. That's why you are now willing to simply market to that audience. And let's face it, WWE, NXT, now, you know, I can go down the list of wrestling promotions, ROH, AEW, Impact, New Japan, all market to that audience. Well, let's face it, in a business sense, that it could not be more short-sighted and really doomed to fail, because there's only so many of them. They only have so much disposable income, and they only have so much attention to give. So everyone's competing for the same niche audience, as opposed to going back to trying to compete and treat it as if it's a sport, and allow us to believe, look, the NFL in court in the 70s on record stated, we're not in the business of sports. We're in the business of sports entertainment. Why has no one understood why Vince called it sports entertainment? Yeah. He called it sports entertainment because that way the government can't come with him for antitrust laws, because there is competition with sports entertainment. Basketball, football, baseball are sports entertainment. Hockey, that's what they coined the term. And now Vince says he's the same. So now if he just said it was wrestling, well, yeah, he has a monopoly. But if he says it's sports entertainment, hey, he can go and say, hey, Mr. Government, there's football, baseball, basketball, hockey. They're all sports entertainment too. UFC, sports entertainment. And so as a result, there ain't no monopoly. And as a result, you can't use antitrust laws and bust up my company.
I recall them, someone reading a story once about Vince Nat, and he said, oh, well, I did it because for tax reasons, because the athletic commission kept trying to take money from him for taxes. And I was like, it could be a reason.
They still do.
The taxes?
The commissions still take the taxes in states, Kentucky,
Well, not all of them, I'm assuming.
Yes, all of them. They all have a event tax. They all acquire. They all do the same thing. Every commission in the country that isn't a commission in a state still taxes these events. It was not done to avoid taxes. It was done to avoid antitrust laws.
My God, Al Snow's cracking open my skull here and throwing more information in there. My. This is interesting.
Good for him.
Good. I mean? Yeah, of course. One of the media scrums you're talking about, though, the WWE did one after Clash of the Castle recently, and Roman Reigns walks out. Reporter goes to ask a question. He says, "Acknowledge me." He goes, "I acknowledge you." Roman Reigns walked out. He was done. Boom. Character.
You're still selling the same thing.
Yes. The other one with AEW, obviously, that turned into quite a mess, and on all sides of the company. I don't know what's next for them, but I don't want to be an executive there right now dealing with that situation, because it turns into a bit of a messy situation of what do you do? How do you react to this? Because now
it's all public.
Understand,
there are going to be events like this all the time. They're going to continue to happen. They have happened throughout. I've watched personally, situations happen in locker rooms where guys get into fights and personalities clash, it was all kept internal. Mm-hmm. And what usually ends up happening is they blow up, they blow off, and then 2-3 weeks, a month, 2 months, they're best of friends. The two guys that were battling tooth and nail and hated each other's guts are best of friends. You never, no ifs, ands, or buts, you never do in public anything that you're not going to be doing to try to use to draw money. Yeah. Otherwise, it serves no purpose. And it's like this, and I give this advice as far as the use of social media, because social media is not the problem. It's how you use social media. That's the problem.
Yeah.
That's the issue. Back in the day, and I'm, an older guy, older generation, I get that. But we all, as families, we all have the drunk uncle or a relative that when they come to Thanksgiving, and they've got whatever issues, your uncle went to Vietnam or whatever, came back, PTSD or Iraq or whatever, they have, and that, and you love them, and you deal with them, but it stays in the house,
right?
Because nobody outside of your house in the neighborhood needs to know about it. And the reason they don't need to know about it is because they don't love your uncle, and they don't know how to judge. They don't know his situation. And so they judge him harshly, and they judge you even harsher. Yeah. And when you are willing, much like their house, the wrestling, the locker room, that's your house. Those are your family. Hey, you can fight. Just like if you have brothers or sisters, you could fight like cats and dogs. As soon as somebody came from outside the house and wanted to do something to your brother, even though you literally just punched him in the face, somebody else came and touched him, you fought him.
Of course.
Now we get to share all of that with everybody else, and it's wrong. It's never right. There's no justification for it. It should have been kept in-house and should have been dealt with accordingly.
Yeah, I guess we'll see what happens next. Because media scrums, I guess right now are going to be, I think all the tweets I keep seeing are like, can we just stop having wrestling shows and just have media scrums and talk about all the backstage?
They're much more entertaining. They're much more salacious.
Of course.
And they're much more real. You buy into it. You know what I mean? You believe it.
Yeah, because suddenly you're creating a situation where it seems more legitimate than you were, because you brought it before, like, oh, everyone knew this was predetermined. But now you're in a situation where you're like, this is predetermined, but these two people don't like each other.
If you're going to use it, and Jerry Jarrett always said, brilliant guy, tell enough of the truth to make them believe a lie. So, and there have been plenty of situations that you're not privy to that have happened,
of course,
over the existence of wrestling where there was genuine heat between the two people. Yeah. And they went out there, but they were professionals and used it to draw money to do business. Yeah. And you were never privy to what was really going on backstage.
No.
So it just made what you watched that more real because you could feel it.
Yeah, you kind of
isn't that situation. So.
No, but for so long, at least the window into the backstage was through Wrestling Observer and Dave Meltzer, because that's all we had. We didn't have social media, we didn't have that. So if you were interested in knowing, and you're like, did you hear that like Booker T and Batista got in a fist fight backstage? And you're like, but did they? I don't know. And then they would go out and wrestle, and you'd be like, oh, I think you see that? He actually gave him a harder spine buster than he should have because of this reason. We didn't know. We had no idea. But obviously
that's more fun.
Yeah.
You really, as a fan, you don't want, because the most disappointing thing, quite honestly, in all of your experience of watching movies, be honest.
Yeah.
As a kid, the most disappointing thing of watching movies, okay, was when you were watching The Wizard of Oz as a child. Mm-hmm. And then it all came up to the culmination of finding out that it was some carny guy behind the curtain, turning knobs and pulling chains. And you're like, well, shit. it's like, well, that's a letdown. Yeah. You want it, but you really don't want for us to pull the curtain back, because it takes the fun away. It's not. I want
to a peek.
You want just enough of a peek.
Yeah. Oh, did you see that?
To keep the interest and to bring the intrigue, but you don't want is to pull the curtain all the way back. You don't want me again as the magician to be sawing the woman in half and going, "Hey, don't worry.
Right.
I got this chick up here and I got the other one down here with her feet. The blade's not touching either one of them. They'll be fine."
Yeah, no, you make a real.
I can't believe I paid $20 for this.
Right. 100%. I 100% agree with you. But growing up with me, when I was growing up watching wrestling, as in today, when I go to wrestling events, when I bring my children with me, like for instance, I went to a house show a few weeks ago, had my kids, had my wife with me, and the New Day is coming around, and the New Day is giving them high five, and it's the greatest day in the world. You think my daughter and my son are going home and reading on social media that Kofi Kingston or Xavier Woods did something terrible on Twitter or something? No.
And it's not, because you all think it's just children. Okay, could not be more mistaken.
Adults too.
You think Carl the plumber, that's 270, 6'3", that used to play college football, is sitting there and going, "Oh, I got to get on the internet and go find out what happened tonight"? No, right. He's not. He's flipping through the channels and he's looking to see if he can connect and identify with somebody on the television screen, and then get caught up in what they're doing. That's it. And unfortunately, in the wrestling business, for quite some time, they've all drunk the Kool-Aid. And they've all believed, number one, that they've reinvented the wheel. It's no longer round. It's octagonal or hexagonal. We're no longer selling just the outcome and who the people are. We're now selling what we do, because it's different. It's changed. No, it hasn't. In 1901, we were selling just the outcome and who these people were. And literally did it so well for so long that regardless of whether or not we've been ostracized by the rest of the sports entertainment world or not, they all adopted our marketing plan and have been using it in football, basketball, hockey, boxing, much more adeptly than we have in the last few decades, because we have allowed the performers to believe that they have come up with a new way, something fancy that's completely different than it was before. Back in 1961 in Kaminsky Park, they ran another event on Saturday night. They drew 43,000 people for that event. Do you know what that event was?
No.
Roller derby. Where's that gone? Do you know why it went away? Because they thought the same thing, that they had changed it, that it was no longer what it was, that it always was and always will be, that they were now selling something different. And once they began selling something different, it ceased to be what it was and it stopped existing.
My God, who knew this would be such a enlightening episode of 10 Count here on NBC? I didn't. I was like, hey, remember that time someone ate your dog? Ah. But I do want
Pepper
to talk.
was near my heart till I had a bowel movement. So.
Oh my God! Ow. Get out of here with your poop jokes. But seriously though, I see action figures behind you. I remember this clear as day. Went to go buy an Alstom action figure at the store, all gone.
Yeah.
Couldn't figure out why. Couldn't figure out for many years why. Then suddenly the
I've
internet.
always been ahead of the curve.
I guess so.
I have. I was getting canceled before cancel culture was a thing.
Well, you were the I guess the king of the beginning of it all, because these people, you talk about believing what you were doing. They believed in what you were doing, that you had a severed head.
The most awesome thing.
All right.
2 women and I'm still number 5. Okay. My action figure is number 5. I got beat out by pregnant Barbie, who's a slut. So she's number 1, but I am still number 5 on the like top 20, 22, 24.
Dan toys?
No, not just toys, but like records and CDs and video games that Walmart will not sell, as they feel it's an endangerment to the community. Now, granted, you can still go to Walmart, buy a hunting gun with ammo and a hunting knife to cut up your victim, but you can't buy pregnant Barbie or my action figure. So, and this is such a great Salem witch trials, McCarthyism, modern day social media type of story, the way it works. 2 women who were, of all things, assistant professors of communications at a college in Georgia. Okay. Were assistant professors of communications.
Yeah.
Should know better. Went into a Walmart and without any study, without any homework, without any research, jumped to a very wild and completely innocuous conclusion that the action figure that I had, which included a Barbie doll head that was popped off that helped me rode across it, was a decapitated woman's head, and then wrote a letter to the Atlanta Constitution. And of course, because wrestling was so hot at the time, the Atlanta Constitution printed it without doing any actual research themselves, because why would real journalists do that? I don't know. And then, of course, Walmart saw it, panicked, and then it led to where the toy was banned across the nation in every retail outlet, which just led to them selling out that much quicker. Which,
of course,
I can't thank you, ladies, enough. Way to go. I hope that you are teaching those lessons of communications, because you are so adept at them.
Yes.
To your students in college. Brilliant. Clearly, all of the wrestling journalists have taken a page out of the Atlanta Constitution, where they don't check sources or fact check in any way and just publish whatever they hear. But I digress. So I was canceled before cancel culture was actually a thing. So I worked out great. For a week and a half, I was a major news event. Time magazine did a story on it. I was in Jay Leno's, David Letterman's, and I forget the other late night host at the time, their monologue. And Rush Limbaugh talked about me. I felt like I had Wolf Blitzer in the backseat of my car traveling around with me. So it was fantastic. When I found out, I was in Philadelphia for Raw, and Blue Meanie and I were and if you can imagine Blue Meanie doing cardio. And
let me hold on.
I'm on the machine. Yeah. Shock. We're on the cardio machines. I'm watching the local TV. The top 3 news stories on all of the affiliate network affiliate programs were the mayoral race of Philadelphia, should be the Bosnian Peeps process, which at that time was a big deal.
Yeah.
And then my action figure being banned from Walmart. And I'm like, what is this? What is happening? What is going on? So
that's insane. But also, you bring up a good point. Wrestling was so hot then that it was really like, it was so hot that it was so edgy that moms and dads most likely needed an excuse to be like, well, my kid wouldn't do that, but if they're watching this program, that means they're brainwashing their mind. Well, what? You could shut the TV off. You know that you can do that, right?
The ladies in their letter, this is the truth. I quote, we feel it's a training manual for future spousal abusers. So like yourself, you're married, and you have probably, I would assure you, I know without a doubt, you've never physically done any kind of harm probably to anybody, let alone your wife. But you walk into Walmart, see my action figure, and you drive home now, and your wife's like, hey, sweetheart, I made macaroni and cheese for dinner. And you're like, macaroni and cheese, God bless it, Elizabeth. And you boom, 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 boom. All because you saw my action figure.
Yes.
No, that's ridiculous.
That would have happened if I saw the action figure, but I didn't get to see it, Al.
You've been like, that's what I need to do. That's what I need to do.
Oh, just thinking about it makes me angry. It makes me want to go home.
I know, the blood starts to boil. I'm going to walk out of my office and just go punch my wife. Of course, she'll probably kick the crap out of me. But
yes. I was gonna say, my wife is about to have my third child, so she would beat me down. I wouldn't even try. I
got to tell you something from personal experience. You never fight a woman unless it's in public. That way security will pull her off you. That's it.
That's a good point.
I tell women all the time, you could kick my ass. You're just not going to look good doing it, because I'm going to curl up a ball and scream and cry, and you're not going to get points. I'm telling you.
God. Oh my God. Also though, let's talk about the past. I love when you were the European champion, and you would always constantly dress up in different outfits from places you're trying to represent as European champion. Who came up with that? Was that you?
No, it was Brian Gewertz, actually. And when he came to me with it, and we were here in Louisville, actually. And we went backstage that night, and I recorded What Does Everybody Want? Head in different languages. I did it in Russian, I did it in German, I did it in Yugoslavian and Romanian. I did them in all of them, and then they would Italian, and they would play those. Portuguese was difficult, and they would play those when I came out in the country that I was representing. They would play the language of my catchphrase as I went to the ring, and at the time, I got to be honest, like I felt like probably the second time I went out, I was like, I felt uncomfortable, and I was like, I feel like an ass. And I thought, you know what though? If I'm going to feel like an ass, I'm going to make myself the biggest ass I could possibly do. And I really embraced it. Yeah. And to this day, I can't tell you the number of people that have come up to me and like always very fondly, will say, oh, when your run with the European title was so much fun, and we really enjoyed it. And I'm so grateful that I was given the opportunity to do that, and to have that run and create an entertaining moment for people. It's really I feel very grateful for it, and I'm appreciative of Brian coming up with the idea.
Well, people still yell, like Hack Sergeant Duggan, ho! People still yell when you go to house shows or Raws or SmackDowns, AEW, what does everybody want? You'd be walking down the hallway and someone just yells, what does everybody want? Everyone yells head. Yeah. And you got to think of it like at the time you had Austin Middle Fingers, DX saying suck it, you had a pimp, you had a former porn star, and then you had your actually I hate a faction you call PMS as well. But then you had you yelling, what does everybody want? Head. It is like a brilliant combo of you using a mannequin head for your character, but yet also yelling something that people might be looking at just going, I think he wants something else.
Here's the thing, okay? And this is, I'll give you a scoop, okay?
Yeah, scoop.
When I did the what does everybody want, what does everybody need, what does everybody love, I knew it was a double entendre. I wasn't using it in that way. Yeah. And on the surface, that's what it looks like, okay? I wasn't. I was actually creating the basis for an angle between myself and Head. Here you have a wrestler, okay? And if you paid attention, if you go back and watch him, you'll hear me getting angrier as I say it. I get more emphasis. You think I'm just emphasizing it, but I'm not. Yeah. I'm actually getting angry because I'm getting jealous, because I wanted to be what does everybody want? I wanted to be what does everybody need? I wanted to be what does everybody love? And you see me more and more forcefully putting the head in the air is because I'm getting upset, because it's not me that everybody wants, needs, or loves. It's Head. So I'm not the star. Head is. And Head and I had always had a contentious relationship where both of us are vying for control. Yeah. And so I was literally going to, at some point, and I never had that conversation with Vince, which was my mistake, for him to enlighten him that that was what I was doing, was laying the groundwork to where I would turn on the Head just like another wrestler would. And then I would have a storyline, much like I would if I were wrestling Hurricane Helms or I was wrestling Bob Holly. I would literally, we touched upon it a little bit when we introduced Pierre and Bob Holly and all of that. But, and Head beating me for the hardcore title, and I couldn't defend it against Bob because I believed Head was now the champion, and but I was going to literally have matches with the Head and because I got jealous and attacked them backstage, and I'd do promos, and because all in my mind I thought they were a real person. So that was where that really came from, was what does everybody want? And I'd throw it up in the air, like, expecting them to say Al Snow, but they'd say Head. And then what does everybody need? And I'd get more and more aggravated. So,
everyone will probably bring up to you, the time that, the Kennel from Hell, or that you ate a dog. But my favorite Al Snow moment is you're fighting outside and you get wrapped up in a chain, like in a fence.
Chain link fence.
Yeah. And it's snowing outside. And you're sweating, and you're out there, and it's gotta be like, it's snowing out. So it's gotta be like 10, 15 degrees. So you must be freezing. And that's like the memory that I always remember.
Well, that combined two matches. There was a hardcore match with Road Dogg. And we ended up, it was in Worcester, Massachusetts, and we ended up fighting accidentally, but we kind of intentionally, we went outside the building, set off the emergency exit alarm.
Oh, yeah.
And it was snowing. It wasn't snowing in the day, but it was snowing. And then he drove me on a bunch of pallets. And
yes, the other one is St. Valentine's Day Massacre, I believe.
That was, when we do those hardcore matches, the agents would come up and go, oh, it's hardcore match with so-and-so. And then they'd leave me alone, and I'd just start laying things out. And earlier in the afternoon, it was warm out in Memphis. I was walking around without a coat, and I'm walking behind the pyramid right there, and there's the Mississippi River. And I'll go, it's warm, and I'm not thinking it's February, and I'm like, I know what we're gonna do. I know. So thank God I throw a tire in the river, I'm like, well, I'm just gonna throw that in there because if we need it, I can grab a hold of it.
Yeah.
And type of thing. And it stayed there. And I was like, oh yeah. Well, then we fight out there, and I go to charge Bob, and he backdrops me with it. Let me tell you something. I had no idea, number one, that water was going to be as cold as it was. It literally took my breath away, stopped my heart for a minute. I mean, because it's February. So not really taking that into mind. The two, didn't realize just how deep that river was right there by the edge of the river. I'm struggling to put my feet down, and I'm panicking. Three, didn't realize how fast that river was moving at the time either. And then when Bob got in the river, and Bob had a tendency to get a little excited, Bob grabs me by the hair, because I had long hair at the time, and begins to dunk my head under the water, bring it up, dunk my head under the water, bring it up. I don't know if anybody knows this. That's the way you have actually drowned somebody. You don't drown them by putting them under the water and holding them. By pulling them up, pushing them down, pulling them up, they only get a certain little bit of air each time, and that's where they end up drowning. So I had to, at one point, if you watch, I grabbed the tire for my life and hit him and go, "You're drowning me. Stop. You're going to kill me, you lunatic."
But we would have recorded it, though. We would have had your death on camera.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
my God.
I would have passed out and floated down the river.
Awesome. Yeah, they're like, "Oh, look, he's selling. He's such a good seller, guys. He's selling. He's selling that death." Jeez. Oh, my God. Look at him go. Oh, he's not coming back up.
Yeah. Maybe we might want to send somebody in there. Well, the Mississippi River doesn't have a lifeguard. Oh, well.
Yeah. But both those moments I always remember of being my favorite Al Snow moments. I still go back and watch that Raw with you and Road Dogg. It's just fun to see. It's a fun match. It's entertaining. But
it was fun to, Road Dogg's so awesome, such a great guy, and really such an amazing person, and such great, amazing talent. I mean, and which he should be. I mean, his whole family, were in the business, and they're all the Armstrongs I, dearly loved. I wrestled Brad back in the day. I wrestled Road Dogg and Smoky Mountain, and Scott and Steve. They're all amazing people. They really are.
Though I got two more questions for you. One is, why does Mick Foley still make jokes about you? I interviewed him last week, and before we even started, we were even recording.
Yeah.
And he just hits me with an Al Snow joke, and I'm like, That's pretty funny that this has been going on as long as I can remember. But
Right. Yeah. I don't know. His obsession, it's borderline like sexual now. You know what I mean? It just it won't stop. It's creepy.
oh my
It's like
God.
anyone with that much interest has got to have some kind of sexual desire. I can't
Over
understand
20
it.
years of being attracted to you, it seems.
Yeah, yeah. And hey, look, Mick, when he was a professional wrestler, he'd tell everybody in the locker room, hey, when I get done wrestling, I'm gonna be a stand-up comedian. And we'd all laugh, and now he's a stand-up comedian. No one's laughing. So, at all.
Oh God. Jesus. Poor Mick. Now it's happening. I'm
Or
like,
Mick's audiences, you know what
oh,
I mean?
oh my God.
I mean, if you want a good laugh, just watch some of his matches. I mean,
Oh
they were fun.
no. Oh no. Poor Mick, poor Al. What have I done? I'm in the middle of this menage a trois suddenly happening.
That's right. Yeah,
Oh,
it's disturbing. The
oh
visual is
no.
even more weird.
Yes, indeed. Mannequin heads and socks.
Thoughts and
No,
lots
thank you. No, thank you. One final question, though. Let's talk about your book, though. Your autobiography is out. Self-help
of,
life lessons from bizarre wrestling career of Al Snow.
yeah.
Dude, so obviously everyone wants to hear wrestler stories, but yours is in particular is bizarre and crazy, and it's so much fun. So why did you want to write this book in general?
Well, I didn't at first. I was very hesitant because I don't find myself that interesting. But
Well, I find you very interesting.
thank you.
I expected
Thank
a very short interview, and I didn't know what I was going to get, and here we are having a great time. So
Yeah.
you're very interesting.
Thank you. And I read a book by God, what was his name? The book was I Hope They Serve Beer in Hell. Tucker or something, I can't remember. I'm not going to say Tucker Carlson because that wasn't it, but
Oh God.
he was, different guy, but it was Tucker something. And the book was all just vignettes, just stories of his experiences. And I thought, I would like to write a book like that. Because the typical wrestling book is so, I don't know, self-grandizing. Well, I was a kid and I grew up and I was going to be a wrestler. And it's like, and I went to Raw and Vince said this to me, and I don't find that entertaining. I'm just it's cool, I guess, for as a wrestling fan, but I wanted to write a book of my experiences in wrestling because I realized a long time ago that there were so many interesting and eclectic and eccentric people in wrestling that, because really ultimately wrestlers are, without a question or a doubt, not because I've been one, but without a question or a doubt, are probably undoubtedly, when you take into account speed, strength, weight, agility, spatial awareness, timing, footwork, distance evaluation, they're without a doubt probably some of the most incredible athletes in the world. I mean, it's just incredible. And then on top of that, some of the most creative, artistic, entertaining people that are under a gun. They don't get a second chance to go out every night. And really, we're in the business of creating moments. And the real beauty, the real art of wrestling is twofold. One is that there's no formula, there's no script. Contrary to popular belief, there isn't. If it's done right and it's done well, there's no script. There's an outline, there's a plan, there's an idea, but you go out and you live in the moment, and you literally feed off of and interact and are in that moment with the audience. And you are doing it to work to an emotional peak. And that moment can last anywhere from just that 3 seconds of 1, 2, 3 to 30 or 45 seconds that you will never forget, that you will have captured a moment. And even if they go the next town over and they do they do the exact same match, they do that exact same match, but they'll never get that same moment ever again. And even if you record it, if you weren't there in that moment, you don't ever get the same experience as that. It never gets duplicated. And we're in that every time we perform, of creating those moments, those memories, those things that years later you bring up when you're talking to somebody, or a friend or a neighbor or a coworker, or to the guy that you actually watched and witnessed it with. And and the people that I've met, and such the weird, and I really started getting an appreciation for the ironic and the weird and just juxtaposition, to the point to where I would share these stories, because I would go and do acting gigs on independent films and things like that, and they'd be like, oh, what do you do? And they'd tell a story, and then I'd tell one, and they'd be like, there's no way, like that can't happen. But literally, if I were to have that same conversation with someone in the wrestling business, they'd be like, oh, yeah, of course, I can only imagine,
Right.
let me tell you about this one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it becomes a, let's see who can outdo each other with the most ridiculous event or story or experience that could possibly have happened. And they're all 100% real. And in no other business, to my knowledge, anyways, in my experience, and I'm sure everybody has the weird or funny or offbeat story, but nothing like what I've experienced. And each time, and I've learned so many lessons that I've applied to my life, because I literally started when I was 18. Until my wife pointed it out, and I didn't even realize we were talking. And our son's now, he's going to be 20 this year. She's like, do you realize that, when Evan, when he was 18, and she goes, do you realize Evan's 18 years old? I go, yeah. And she goes, do you realize you started in a business full of grown, twisted, hyper weird men traveling across the country night to night around people, and I go, oh yeah, I guess that's probably why I'm kind of the way I am, and have the outlooks I do, is because, I was with, and when I broke in, I mean, the majority of, that's the one thing that has changed about the wrestling business. The modern wrestling business, the talent they're so much different. I mean, they could go out in the real world in society and have regular jobs. And the men that I broke in with, those could, if they hadn't been doing this, they would have not been a positive thing in society in any other way. They'd have probably been in prison, I mean, they just were so out, they were the people that ran away with the circus,
Yeah.
And so at first I used to get all worked up and be like, well, you get, why is this so unprofessional, and they should be this way and that way. And then I started embracing it and started realizing just what things I was learning from it. And so, the publishers wanted me to tell a story of, why, how you got in, how you grew up, how you got in it. I did it a bit, but I also wanted to include a lot of funny, entertaining stories. And, oh, by the way, here's the lesson I learned from it, So, kind of like the story about the horses riding to the ring and what ensued, and, what was the lesson I learned about riding horses to the ring? You don't do it. Don't do it. It's not going to go good.
And don't wrestle with dogs running around a ring taking
Don't
craps.
wrestle with dogs. Even people in porn know you don't work with children and animals. They'll always upstage. You know what I mean? So,
yes, Jerry Lawler on commentary during that match certainly was sharing his thoughts on what the dogs were doing.
And it wasn't the biggest aggravation is that when Vince Russo came to me with that idea, and I was like, I'm always open to doing anything.
Right.
And that was the great thing about my character, my gimmick, was that I was to be insane. Well, there's no right or wrong when you're insane. There's no, I could do things that The Rock or Steve Austin or, they couldn't do those things, get away with them, but I could be entertaining. And they're like, oh, you were a comedy wrestler. No, I wasn't. I wasn't doing it to be funny. I was doing it because I was insane. And it just so happened to be entertaining because I was a lunatic. And, and I did it where you asked 9 out of 10 people back then, they would all swear up to God that I was completely out of my mind, So when he approached me about it, I was like, yeah, I'll give it a try. I mean, it sounds ridiculous. It sounds offbeat, but so did representing every country in Europe as I walked out, But I said from day one, I swear to you, on my kids, I said, as long as we have highly trained animals. And then, oh yeah, we're gonna have it's a multi-million-dollar international company. Why would you expect anything less? We're gonna have highly trained animals. In my vision, I said this numerous times when they brought me Pepper, who was just a dog that they contacted a veterinarian clinic and and rented it from an owner. It was just, Pepper was not a trained animal.
Huh.
Okay. And I was like, I need a trained Chihuahua that I can interact with, that I can speak and can do things. And it's imperative though, that when we do this match, you have to have all of these Rottweilers, all of these attack dogs have to come from the same kennel. They have to be under verbal commands so that when they're released inside that cage, the trainers can stand outside and yell commands to these dogs so that we can give the impression of the danger that we're basically the ring is a cage and it's surrounded by another cage that has sharks in it.
Yeah.
These dogs should be rabid. And when they say attack, all of these dogs go on attack so that there's the threat. I go, we need that. Oh, yeah. For months. Yes. We're going to have highly trained dogs. Oh, yes. All from the same kennel, all under the same commands, all verbally commanded. Yes. I arrive in Charlotte, North Carolina, walk in the back, and there are 10 dogs with 10 different people on the leashes. I put my bags down, go out, to much my chagrin, there's one dog that's had some obedience training. So now the biggest high spot of the dogs is when the owners are running out with the dogs. A very heavy set owner trips on the rug and big splash is his own dog. That's the biggest high spot with the dogs.
They did try to get that dog to bite Boss Man's foot and it did not work out.
They can't. They were urinating, defecating, and fornicating to the point where they exchanged phone numbers and addresses for the puppy rights backstage.
Oh no.
So you've built, just so you understand, you were built for months. The entire crux of the story is around these dogs, and we cannot utilize them in any way.
Oh my God.
You have set both of us up, Bossman and myself, up for complete and utter failure.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're still talking about it 20 years later.
I know, yeah.
And here, if it was a great match, people probably wouldn't be talking about it. But the fact that these dogs are out there pissing and pooping and humping and kissing, and a man splashing.
There's no threat. There's no threat of anyone being attacked and mauled or bitten.
No. Well, we're still here talking about it, you know what I mean? So I guess that's a good thing or a bad thing, depending how you look at it.
Yeah.
But hey, man, I got to say, this was an unexpected, joyful, I knew it was going to be fun, but I didn't know how fun it would be talking to Al Snow here at NBC's 10 Count. I've been Steve Fall. He's been Al Snow. We've had a great time, and we'll see you next time. Remember, folks, get your dogs spayed and neutered. Have a good one.
Get them trained. Get them trained.
And trained. We'll see you next time. Bye. Oh, my God.